Hello, and welcome back to Word for Word, the podcast that gets into the nuts and bolts of the English language. I'm your host, Avery.
And I'm Melody. It's great to be back. In our last episode, we took a bird's eye view of English as a whole. Today, we're zooming in on what I think is the most critical component of any sentence, the verb.
The engine of the sentence. If nouns are the people and places, verbs are what they do, what they feel, what they are. Without a verb, you don't really have a complete thought. You just have a list of things.
Exactly. The cat on the mat. Okay, what about it? The cat sits on the mat. Now we have a sentence. The verb sits provides the action, the vitality.
But it's so much more than just doing words, which is what we're all taught in school. English verbs are incredibly complex. They handle time, possibility, necessity. They're the Swiss Army knife of grammar.
They really are. So let's start with the most basic distinction. We have verbs that show action, and we have verbs that show a state of being.
Right. Action verbs are the easy ones. Run, jump, think, create, write, listen. They describe something happening, a physical or mental action.
But then you have stative verbs, or state of being verbs. These describe a condition, not an action. The most famous one is, of course, to be. I am, you are, it is. But there are many others, like love, know, believe, seem, own.
And this is a really important distinction for learners because it affects grammar. You can say, I am running, using the continuous tense for an action verb, but it sounds very strange to say, I am knowing the answer.
Right, because knowing is a state, not a progressive action. You either know it or you don't. The same goes for loving. In English, you'd say, I love this music, not I am loving this music.
Although that one's interesting. In casual speech, especially in advertising, you'll hear things like, I'm loving it. It's technically incorrect, but it's become a common colloquialism to show temporary enthusiastic enjoyment.
That's a great point. The rules are sometimes more like guidelines and they can bend. But for a learner, sticking to the action versus state rule is a very safe bet.
Okay, so we have verbs of doing and verbs of being. Now let's get into their primary superpower. Time travel. I'm talking about tenses.
This is where English verbs really start to show off their complexity. It's not just past, present, and future. Each of those time frames has different flavors, which linguists call aspect.
Right. So let's take a simple verb like to work. In the present, you can have the simple present, I work at a library. This describes a general truth or habit.
But then you have the present continuous. I am working at the library. This means it's happening right now, at this very moment. It's an ongoing action.
Such a crucial difference in meaning just by adding am and ing. Now let's jump into the past. Simple past. I worked yesterday. The action is finished, completed, over.
But then you have the present perfect, which is a past tense that really confuses people. I have worked there for 3 years. This is the tense of current relevance.
That's the best way to put it. It connects the past to the present. The action started in the past, but it's still true now. Or think about this. I lost my keys versus I have lost my keys.
Ooh, that's a good one. I lost my keys could mean last week, last year. The event is over, but I have lost my keys implies I still can't find them right now. It's a current problem.
Exactly. The perfect tenses build that bridge from the past to the present. And then you can make it continuous too. I have been working for 8 hours. This is the present perfect continuous, and it emphasizes the duration of the action. You're trying to convey that you're tired from a long day of work.
It's amazing how much nuance is packed into these verb forms. We haven't even touched the past perfect, like I had worked there for a year before I quit, which sets up a sequence of events in the past.
Or the future tenses. I will work. I am going to work. I will be working. Each one has a slightly different shade of meaning about intention, planning, or what will be in progress at a future time.
It's a lot to take in, but the core idea is that English verbs aren't just about when something happened, but how it happened. Was it a single event, an ongoing process, a repeated habit, or something in the past that still matters now?
Right. Now, so far we've been using nice, polite verbs like work and walk that follow the rules. They just add an ed in the past. But English has a dark secret.
The irregular verbs, the rebels of the grammar world.
They are the reason English learners pull their hair out. Why is it go, went, gone? There is no goad. Why is it see, saw, seen? Why is red spelled the same in the past but pronounced red?
It feels completely random, but it's actually history. These are some of the oldest verbs in the language, inherited from Old English and its Germanic roots. They used to change their vowel sound to show a change in tense, a system called ablaut.
So, sing, sang, sung is a fossil of a much older grammatical system. The regular ed ending was a newer, simpler technology that eventually took over for most new verbs, but the old, common ones stuck around.
Exactly. Think about the most common verbs we use every day. Be, have, do, go, say, eat, drink, sleep. They're almost all irregular. You can't escape them.
And some of them are just plain tricky. My personal favorite is the lie versus lay confusion.
Oh, that's a classic. To lie means to recline. I need to lie down. Yesterday, I lay down for a nap.
But to lay means to place something. Please lay the book on the table. And its past tense is laid. She laid the book on the table. The problem is that the past tense of lie is the present tense of lay.
It's a grammatical traffic jam. Even native speakers get it wrong all the time. But it shows just how much history and complexity are hiding inside these seemingly simple words. There's no trick to learning them, unfortunately. It's just memorization.
Okay, so verbs have tenses and some of them are rebels. But there's another layer of complexity. Verbs don't always like to work alone. They team up. Let's talk about modal verbs.
These are the helping verbs that add a mood or mode to the main verb. Can, could, may, might, will, would, shall, should, must. They don't have an ing or ed form. They're a special class.
And they totally change the meaning of a sentence. I go to the party is a statement of fact, but I might go expresses possibility. I should go expresses obligation. I must go is a very strong necessity.
The shades of meaning are so subtle. The difference between may I help you and can I help you. Traditionally, may is for permission and can is for ability, but in everyday speech, can is used for both.
Or the difference between could and would in polite request. Could you pass a salt versus would you pass a salt? They're pretty much interchangeable, but they soften the command pass the salt.
Modals are all about this social and contextual meaning. They're less about literal action and more about the speaker's attitude toward that action.
That makes sense. And speaking of the speaker's attitude and how a sentence is structured, we should probably talk about voice. Not our voices, but active and passive voice.
Oh, a fantastic topic. It's the difference between saying, I wrote the book, and the book was written by me. The first one, the active voice, is direct and clear. The subject, I, is performing the action.
That makes sense. And speaking of the speaker's attitude and how a sentence is structured, we should probably talk about voice, not our voices, but active and passive voice.
In the passive voice, the subject is acted upon. The book is the subject, but it isn't doing anything. It's receiving the action. We often use the passive voice when we want to emphasize the object or when we don't know who performed the action. For example, my car was stolen.
That's a great way to think about it, focusing on who or what is front and center in the sentence. It also brings up another structural choice we have with verbs. What form to use when a verb follows another verb?
You're talking about gerunds and infinitives, right? That's another one of those areas where learners just have to memorize which main verb is followed by which form.
Right. This is where a main verb combines with a particle, usually a preposition or an adverb, to create a totally new meaning. Let's take the simple verb put.
Okay, put. I can put the cup on the table. Simple. But I can also put up with noise, which means to tolerate it. I can put off a meeting, which means to postpone it. Or I can put on a jacket, meaning to wear it.
And you can't guess the meaning from the parts. Up and with have nothing to do with tolerating. It's a brand new vocabulary item you have to learn as a single chunk.
And it's interesting how some verbs like enjoy or avoid always take a gerund. You'd say, I enjoy swimming, not I enjoy to swim. But others, like want or decide, always take an infinitive. I want to swim. This is what makes spoken English so challenging. We use them constantly. We wake up, then get up. We work out. We look forward to the weekend, and we hang out with friends. It's impossible to sound natural without them.
And some phrasal verbs can be separated, which adds another layer of complexity. You can say turn off the light or turn the light off. Both are correct. But with some, you can't. You can't say I'll look the word up. You have to say I'll look up the word.
So, looking back at everything we've discussed, verbs define action and state. They manage the complex timeline of events through tense and aspect. They can be regular or wildly irregular, and they can team up with modals and particles to create incredibly nuanced meanings.
It really is the heart of the grammar. If you can master English verbs, you're not just learning vocabulary. You're learning to think and structure thoughts in English.
So, what's our key takeaway for someone listening who might be struggling with all this?
I'd say don't try to memorize all the rules at once. Focus on patterns. When you learn a new verb, learn its forms. Go, went, gone. Think, thought, thought. And pay attention to context. When you hear a phrasal verb, notice how it's used.
That's great advice. Context is king. Seeing and hearing verbs used in real situations, in conversations, in books, in movies, is what makes the rules click. It moves them from an abstract concept in your head to a usable tool in your communication toolkit.
Verbs are powerful and they can be tricky, but they are also what gives English its incredible flexibility and richness. They are the engine, and learning how to use them is learning how to drive the language.
A perfect metaphor to end on. That's all the time we have for today on Word for Word.
Join us next time for another deep dive into the fascinating world of words. Until then, keep talking.